to spread your pony knowledge wide. Oh, better. I got a place where winning ain't tough to do. You wanna be cool? Stable do. Your horse racing fantasy come true. But no, Stable do.
Download the Stable Duel app and play today.
Well, it's a very, very sad day. It's also a happy day as we come back for the final time on this weekend in Stable Duel. We welcome in our good buddy Matt DeSantis, Barry the Sniper Spears, Gino Bucola. I was trying to think. I think we've done this show for like 2.5 years on Friday mornings. It was, I think, around the start of the year 2 years ago. And we have done, I mean, almost every single week, probably missed like 10 weeks over like the 2.5 year span. Barry, I think when we started doing this, we've done a couple different iterations of it. I think like a few years back, Darren Zocali was in it. And then Caleb for a little while. And then we got the Friday morning show started with Matt. Matt was doing some of the Win Play Show stuff. We saw Matt, and I think I worked with you, Matt, once or twice on a Stable Duel stream. And then we kind of all got together, and it just sort of became the Friday morning show
thing.
And we've done it for a few years. It's crazy because I was thinking about yesterday just how much like my life has changed in the 2.5 years as far as like jobs, my son, like things that I remember doing a few years ago, on even how just my Friday schedules have changed, all the stuff that my Fridays used to be like and how it's compared now. The reason why we're talking about this is because if you haven't heard, our good friend Matt DeSantis here got a really nice new job, and he's going to be moving over to New York, and he's going to be part of NYRA as a content producer over there. So Matt, have the floor for a minute. Tell everybody what's going on and where we can find you.
Yeah. So listen, you can, still find me. Well, I'm always still going to be at Failed to Menace, never fear. And it's obviously a big change, but I'm really excited for getting this position with Naira and Naira Bets as a content producer. So I will be moving up to Saratoga in about 12 days, which now, as I said that out loud, is rather nerve-wracking because as you can see, absolutely nothing is packed behind me. So I'll be, moving up there temporarily for the summer, covering the Saratoga meet, helping create content for Naira and Naira Bets. And, in terms of pick split columns, in terms of YouTube videos, in terms of tutorials for, first-time bettors, first-time handicappers, really trying to make a lot more content to encourage people to get into the game and stay in the game, to, connect them to winners and winning angles. And then I'll, after the Saratoga meet's over, permanently relocate to, near Belmont and Aqueduct moving forward. And yeah, it was a big time shift. Obviously, I've spent 16 years of my professional career in higher education as a professor and administrator. And so making this leap at age 42, almost 43 is a little bit daunting to just change professions. But it was an opportunity that just opened up that just everything kind of fell into place at
Sometimes
the exact
they work
right
out
time.
perfect like that.
Exactly. So it was a great opportunity for me, and it was actually an okay time for me to leave where I'm currently at, because the summer in higher education is always a little bit of a downtime. So I'm not, screwing anybody over by leaving sort of thing, and that it's always important. And so everybody's on good terms, and I didn't get yelled at by my boss, and everybody's okay. It's obviously big news. And the unfortunate side effect of this is I'm going to be working on Fridays now, Friday mornings. And so I'm not going to be able to join you guys on Stable Duel, the streams on Friday mornings, but hopefully we get Stable Duel up in New York sooner or later, and we still do some stuff together. And I think that would be a lot of fun.
And so moving forward, next week, we won't do a Friday morning show. I'm going to get together with Barry. We'll plan out an attack for the summer moving forward, whether it be we keep the same time, whether we move a little later on Friday, because there's only Del Mar, so we don't necessarily need to go as early in the morning. That was one of the reasons why we did, because when Gulfstream and Keeneland and those tracks are running early, we want to be able to be done by about 11:30, noon-ish. By the time they're starting, we can get the scratches all in and everybody can race. So we may We may change it a little bit. We'll talk to Barry. I don't know if it's something we do record on Thursday night because we'll focus more on Del Mar. Maybe we do it in the morning, but there will be some Stable Duel, something similar coming. We'll just figure out a way to do it because this all kind of happened quickly. And we want to make sure when we have it set, we kind of can have it consistent. So that way you'll know how to follow, but just keep an eye out. And in the coming weeks, I've been starting to kind of send in some written plays here and there to Stable Duel just to make sure there's some help for big games and big contests. And we will have that this weekend because this weekend's a fun weekend.
It is. And I will say one of the things that, we will miss from the Friday morning shows is not only our law professor locks of the week, but it's also the inevitable, oh crap, that horse scratched. And we well, never mind. All right.
You know what? And I said this too. This was always a really great primer for me as well. And I think for someone who was going to talk about these races a couple different times or maybe later, Friday night and then Saturday again, you sort of go over them once in your head. You talk them out with your friends and you feel like, it's like you've already done the work for the test a lot of the time, right? Talking it out and going through the process sometimes is one of the harder parts. Now, we're going to get into Friday and Saturday. We're going to talk Gulfstream and Indy. Indy has a couple stakes races today, and then tomorrow, 8 stakes races, 2 graded stakes races. Tomorrow's kind of a fun day because you have the Belmont stakes races over there. I think they have 5 of them, 4 of them, and then they've got the Belmont Derby and the Belmont Oaks. You've got the Derby at Prairie Meadows with the Iowa Derby on Saturday. And you've also got the Indiana Derby and Oaks. So there's 3 Derby and Oaks races this weekend at different tracks that you normally don't see graded stakes all that often. Delaware also has the Delaware Handicap and a couple other stakes races on their card. Los Alamitos has the Derby. So there's another Derby this weekend, a bunch of Derbies at all different tracks. My most important question for you, Matt, that has to do with your leaving. Do we have boxes ready for the hat transportation? That's what I'm curious about.
It's a good question. So
that's going to be a lot of luggage, I'm assuming.
There's 2 things. One, the hat, because I have just such a big
head. Ties.
So I need
the ties, right?
Exactly. The hats and the ties are going to have their own separate carrier. I actually have their own separate.
I was going to say,
I wouldn't say a trailer, but they do have their own suitcase.
Because now you're going to NYR, you got some people with the connections up there. I'm sure you can call someone on the backside with an extra horse trailer. And they can just load you up, right?
Trust me. I'm going to need it. I am a clothes horse. That is the one thing I am. I am a minimalist in everything else, but man alive, do I have way too many clothes.
And that's the one thing, Matt, consistency. If you're someone that gets up and does the little things they teach you, the best way to start the day is you get up, you do the same thing, you make the bed, right? Even if you're not going out, because then you get in that mode of I'm saying that as someone who doesn't do that, but Matt does every day because he always was wearing his tie. He was always ready and looking good no matter what. And when you look good, you feel good. And when you feel good, you win. And that's what we're going to do today and tomorrow. Maddie, I'm going to pull up the Daily Racing Form past performances. Why don't you run through the schedule and let everybody know what their options are for today? We're going to start at Gulfstream Park.
Yeah, so there was supposed to be a contest at Gulfstream today. It's not up on the app yet, so we'll see. That said, there is a $10 contest at Monmouth today, 2-entry limit, $500 pot. There's also a couple of standardbred harness racing contests at the Meadows. There's a $5 contest with a $1,000 pot and a free contest with a $50 pot. And then finally, there's the Horseshoe Indianapolis game, or Indiana game, I should say. And that is a $50 entry, $2,000 pot. But I'd imagine that pot's going to increase dramatically with that limit. So those are your contests for today.
And when I was looking at some of the races too for Indy, we were talking about it earlier. These are quality races today and tomorrow. Some of the races from Indiana Grand were races that got canceled from last week when the smoke and the fires were coming through. I think they were rescheduled earlier this week. So they've had a lot of stakes races in like a week period and some real quality racing. So let's start over at Indy just because we know for sure there are going to be Indy games there today. And I think we had some Indy plays to get things kicked off. So Maddie, take it away, my friend. You have today races 6 and 7 at Indy. And Barry, are you 6, 10, and 12? Is that correct?
That's Saturday.
Oh, that's Saturday. Okay, so
today
you-
8-9. 8-9.
8-9. So you'll start in race number 6, Matt. You know what? So I will have one after you in the 8th. So yeah, you're first between the three of us. Let's go to race 6.
Oh yeah, I do just have, yeah. Okay. So I'm sorry. Yeah. Saturday I have race 1.
Yep.
So yes. So race 6, is a $30,000, maiden claimer. And honestly, it wouldn't be my last time on the show if I'm not just throwing out maiden claimer
got
races. So I got to do
low level maidens, right?
Yeah, low
As
level
we've
maidens
learned to be
going
nice to
5
them.
furlongs. Yeah, going 5 furlongs on the turf. And for this one, I actually just went to the inside rail, and the number 1 designated at 8-1. And this is a horse that I'm really intrigued by, primarily because of pedigree. This horse did take a little bit of a step forward second time out from a buyer speed figure standpoint. So I was glad to see that, and actually flashed a little bit more early speed, which I think is beneficial if it's going to be coming off the rail. It was also a race where there was just a blowout winner last time. I mean, so you look at the lengths beaten, you know, the winner won by 7. So, you know, everybody's going to look pretty well beaten in that regard. The interesting thing is when you dig into this, this is a really, this horse probably belongs on the turf. The sire was a stakes winning turf sprinter in terms of Pachero. The dam is by Special Rate, who is a turf sprints winner. And the second dam was a turf winner as well. So there is turf up and down this horse's pedigree to suggest this horse is going to like the surface switch. And when you look through the rest of this field, I mean, there's some okay horses, but there's nothing else really in here that makes you go, wow, under any circumstance. There's a lot of first timers that you just don't know what you're going to get out of those horses necessarily. A couple of horses have already scratched who were a little bit of contenders. You know, the 7 certainly makes some sense. And I kind of get that horse a little bit. The 9 actually.
Is it just me, or is that like a funny name for a horse? Ladle.
Yeah.
Right? It's I don't know why it made me
that
chuckle.
is yeah, there was a guy in college who we nicknamed Ladle. Anyway, that's a whole nother story. But but the 9 who actually scratched, if I'm not mistaken, was actually the more interesting first time starter, I think, in this race. But with that one out, I really do like the 1. That was the Larry Ravelli horse, and the dam of that one had produced 2 first out winners out of 4 offspring. So I was kind of intrigued by that horse. But with that one out of the race, the 1 makes a lot of sense from a pedigree standpoint. I also tend to like in these 2-year-old races horses that actually just have a couple of races under their belt
and some speed,
and
they've shown that they could be forwardly placed. Yeah.
So I'll go with this one. Only $3,000 on Stable Duel, 8-1 on the morning line.
Designated, and just with a couple of scratches, this horse will probably shorten up a little bit. It'll be a good spot to play a Stable Duel play. That is race number 6 today. This is a Indiana Grand card that has a $50 Stable Duel contest. Race number 6, one of Maddie's plays, only going to cost you $3,000. And then I believe you are right next door, Matt, in race number 7.
Yep, absolutely. In race number 7, we're looking at a state bred maiden special weight, 36,000, going 1.70 for 3-year-old and up fillies and mares. And there's a huge favorite in this race, the number 4 Mitsify Doll. And I get it. But from a Stable Duel standpoint, 3 to 5, I mean,
no way.
There's no way I'm spending 3 to 5 on a maiden special weight race. And I mean, unless it's Flightline, I'm just not using it. And this horse ain't Flightline. So as a result, this is one where, okay, maybe the 3 to 5 horse wins, but now it's a matter of, can I get a second place? Can I get a third place?
Her out of the race, right?
Exactly.
Almost, and handicap the rest of the field like she wasn't in it.
Exactly. And so the horse I ended up on was the number 6, Explosive Skies, at 15-1. This horse is only going to cost you $500 in Stable Duel. The reason I like this horse, look at this horse's best career effort, November 11th, 2022, going long on the dirt. The only time they have ever let this horse go long on the dirt before. Every other time they've been sprinting this horse, putting this horse on the turf, etc. This horse is now 3rd back in the form cycle, and I can make a very easy excuse for first time back, 5.5 furlongs. That's not this horse's game. This horse is not particularly quick out of the gate and is behind early immediately. Second time out, they put this horse on the turf. This is not a turf horse and does not run well. We finally get back to what this horse has done well once before. The only other time they've let this horse go long in the turf, the horse actually showed something. I think the fact this horse is not naturally quick is what benefits this horse from a standpoint of going longer. This is not a quick twitch horse, as we might say. It's a horse that I think needs to build up some momentum in order to kind of get rolling. But that 48 buyer speed figure from that November race stacks up with anybody else in this race. And I'll gladly use this horse at 15-1 for only $500 in Stable Duel.
And then from a pattern standpoint, you have a horse who was improving, was getting a little bit better last year, and then went to the bench from November to April. When they showed back up in April, it was sprinting on the dirt again, like you mentioned, which isn't the game for this filly. She came running a little bit late, just sort of picks up some pieces. Then they tried the turf one more time. So the 2 races this year, you can even say excuses for those. And now probably the most fit she'll ever be. Like, she should be set for the best race of her career. Is it good enough to win, or how good is it to stack up? It should be good enough to finish in the top 3 here. With that type of an effort.
Exactly.
Honestly.
Yeah, no. That's the logic is okay, I might not win with this horse. Maybe I do. I mean, you never know. We've seen huge favorites at Horseshoe sometimes really throw in some clunkers.
Yep.
And so it isn't shocking to see a 1-5 horse lose out there. So that can happen sometimes, especially going 2 turns, I think. And, you never know. This is a horse that might really pop on a big day. So that was one that I thought made a little bit of sense. And the 8 as well, if you're looking for another alternative, I think the 8's a little bit interesting too. Only because that's a horse that just made its debut and is now kind of making a second start, has every opportunity to take a step forward and kind of has a little bit of a similar MO. So I thought that one at 12-1 as well made a little bit of sense, but 6 is my top play.
Just a few days off of 4th of July. Baby, you're a firework. With the explosive skies here for Maddie. And what's great is I have an app that I have for Milo's school. It's funny. He's gone to a different school now. So the first school I could watch him all day on the app, which was kind of like, it was bad because I'd be sitting here all day like, oh no, don't do that, Milo, do that, but no, but
hit him with the left.
Oh no, back.
Hit him with the left.
So now it's less like I'll get updates throughout the day. They'll send me pictures. They'll like say Milo 8 or Milo sleeping or this or that. But yesterday he was outside drawing with chalk. And it was cool. They said, we asked Milo what he's drawing, and he said fireworks, which I thought was cool because he's got little stuff going all over the place. So nice. Fireworks, the theme this week, the explosive skies. Let's see if Maddie can get home a big 15-1 shot.
I would have thought he would have been drawing Law Professor, but
there we go. Yeah. It's like the teacher asks him, Milo, what are you drawing? The Law Professor lock of the week this week.
There you go.
This week.
Yes.
Like he has like a 2-sentence response, just like perfectly memorized that he just spits right out as we keep rolling on the Friday card at Indy. So let's move to race number 8. You're in the 8th, right, Barry?
Yes, sir.
I think you and I are both in the 8, which is the 8th and the 9th are back-to-back turf sprint stakes. This one is a 5 furlong turf sprint, $100,000. Talk to us about who you're looking at in race number 8.
Yeah, the good old William Garrett handicap. So it's an interesting race. You got a lot of speed in here, and anybody that's watched this program, show, live stream, whatever you want to call it, knows how I look at these type of races. There's a lot of speed. So you have Diamond City, the 1. Speed. Karatari, the 3.
Yep.
Speed.
I think out, but yeah. Adds to the speed.
I mean, even if that one
out, it does. It's it's one of matter. 5 or still, 6.
Exactly. Don't wait up the 4. Wants to go to the front. Just Might definitely wants to lead. Same thing with the favorite, who I thought was a little bit ambitious at 8-5.
Me too. Because that last race was much better than he's ever run before. From like a figure standpoint and stuff.
And he got lucky.
He got the lead early. He just sort of went on with
caught
it.
A break.
And I remember Chase Sessions pointed out that there was an inside rail bias on the turf that day at Churchill Downs as well. So that horse had everything going for him.
Yeah. And then you have the 9, Shimmer Me Timbers, who is just speed. So that leads me to my pick, number 5. Charcoal.
Oh, we're on the same one here.
Yeah, he's going to sit the best trip.
Exactly.
Right behind this speed and make that run. He has figures back last year at Keeneland and Kentucky Downs. that kind of fit here. And even last year's race, he
Mhm.
almost won on the lead, mind you.
Mhm.
But this is a different type of race. He's matured a little bit. He's kind of looks like he can settle. His last race he won at Indiana Grand in May. He kind of set off the pace. Telmo did a good job of rating him, and I think that's going to be the trip he
That would be
needs.
very competitive. That effort right here would put him really close to winning this race. And we've got
Absolutely.
a couple of races, like you said, that he can get back to that would win this race. Those efforts last year in the Woodford and in the turf sprint, they're not bad behind Golden Pal and Brand. Oceanic came back and ran well at Woodbine last weekend. And you,
Yeah, I
again,
mean, the only hiccups he really has is the last race he ran on June 18th was off the turf. So you can cross the line through that one. And then February 23rd at Turfway, he just didn't run at
like the
all
synthetic.
on the synthetic. And then the one after that on May 2nd, it's a comeback race. He probably
Yep.
needed it.
Yep, and he was a little too fresh in that race too. You know, he's like a little because he was off for a few months. He was probably eager. He wanted to go, and you were hitting at the trip he's going to get. Because what I like about this type of horse in a turf sprint like this, he's not going to be on the lead, but he doesn't have to be way out of it.
Too far, yeah.
You
He's
know,
not a
like he's
dead
got
closer.
enough speed to keep himself in striking range, and then he can pass horses too. I like horses in these races that have multiple gears like that. Hey, we can use you, put you in a spot, sit here. Now we can sit, and then we can press the button again when we need to go, and you'll respond. I think Charcoal is that in here. Barry and I both go to Charcoal, the number 5, Charcoal 8-1 on the morning line. That will only cost you $3,000 in your stable dual lineup. I've got one more, Barry, and you do
Race 9.
right back. Yeah, right back to back. We're both going in the stakes races.
Oh, look at that.
Look at that. We moved to race number 9, and I would not be shocked if we were on the same one in here as well. This is a $100,000 stakes race. We're going to have scratches of the 3, 9, and 10. Look at the 1, Love and Money, flashing some speed from the inside and looking through this field. Again, you know, you have a couple other speeds that you expect in this type of a sprint race. The 7, Lady Gold Start, is going to go. A big scratch of the 10 now with Irv out. The 12, also quick from the outside, has to go. I kind of come back to the 11, Barry, Little Jewel, who we saw down at Gulfstream Park. This was the little Mike brother. And this one is a horse who like the races that she has run fit at this level. I think she just ran into too tough of company in her last couple starts. She was behind Twilight Gleaming a few starts back. She ran like the same race that won a stakes race over at Gulfstream at Keeneland. It just wasn't good enough to beat the tougher company. She came back and she was chasing Caravel, and we've all tried to beat Caravel a couple times in a row, but Caravel is just really, really sharp right now. I think Little Jewel sits the type of trip I'm looking for in here. That trip we were talking about where like mid-pack, doesn't have to be dead last, can kind of sit well from the outside, won't have to be quite as far out now with a couple of the scratches. So for me, I'm on Little Jewel, but it sounds like you're in a different direction, Barry. Talk to us about where you landed.
Yes, I landed on number 5. About
Nice.
time.
Nice.
And
I can see
kind of
this
for
one
the same
sure.
reasons.
Yeah.
Kind of for the same reasons. I mean, you look at this horse's history. After the first start, probably in over his head or her head. Then came back off the layoff, like a 6-7 month break, and wins going 5.5 at Fairgrounds, and that turf was horrible. It's a wonder anybody won and was really favored that day. This horse has been favored and runs to it most of the time. If you want to just kind of look at races to throw out, you have the July 23rd last year at Saratoga. The Caress just didn't break and didn't really run all that well, and something must have went awry because the horse got laid off at that point. Tried the Franklin at Keeneland, probably wasn't ready to come back yet.
It's the toss two. The old toss
Exactly.
two angle. You toss the race before the layoff, and then you toss the race coming back from the bench. And especially in this situation, when there's a race that's sandwiched by layoffs, that middle race, you don't even take anything out of because the horse came off of a layoff, went right back to a layoff. Now we should get the step forward race for this.
Right.
You look at this mare, she's only raced, 3 times in the last year, and that's the middle of her 4-year-old year to her 5-year-old year. For mares, this is a huge time period for development, for growth, for maturity. She could take a big step forward in here.
Yeah, and that's what I'm anticipating based off of that comeback race on May 27th at Churchill. She came back running, which is really, really encouraging. I think that race sets her up really well for this one. This should be a field that she can handle.
Barry with a 12-1 shot, and one that I think makes a ton of sense if you're playing any type of late exotics too. About Time should be in the mix for you. There's a look at Friday at Indy. Let's turn the page to Saturday. We'll go Saturday Gulfstream. We'll go Saturday Indy, just in case we haven't seen that Friday Gulfstream contest up. So we'll definitely make sure we give you the horses for games that have contest this weekend. We move to Saturday, and we will talk some Gulfstream Park on Saturday. So just kind of looking the lay of the land. Today, there's a pick 6 carryover in New York. And Belmont Park has closing weekend this weekend. So Matt, you'll actually be, what's your schedule now moving forward? As I pull up Gulfstream, let everybody know you'll actually be starting right away for Saratoga. Then are we going to still see you on Monday nights with Trust the Profits with the Assiniboia? That's the question everyone's been asking me.
Sadly, that's the question that's
I've been asked that everyone's tongue.
So, sadly, no. I will not be able to be joining the fellows on the Assiniboia live stream. I'll be watching and cheering along at Assiniboia and listening to Kurt's great calls of Big Tony, coming down the stretch. And so it's won't be able to do that, but yeah, so I'll be starting that. My first day there is July 21. So I'll miss the first opening weekend at Saratoga, but I'll be there all the other weekends. So as I told people, make sure to hit me up if you come up to Saratoga. I'd love to. Obviously, a lot of people make an annual pilgrimage up there. I was maybe talking with Chuck Simon about what sort of leverage we have to do to get Barry out of the Sunshine State and actually up to New York for a visit to Saratoga. I don't know. But that meme that I sent Barry yesterday was something that I think perfectly typifies the attitude of Floridians.
Pretty much.
Yeah. But yeah, so it'll be a lot of fun. And like I said, if anybody's up there in Saratoga, feel free to reach out and say, hey, love to see you at the track. And it's just pretty cool that my job's going to be at the track every day. So that'll be a lot of fun.
Awesome. Well, our job is going to get you some winners for Saturday now, as we shift the focus over to Gulfstream and then to Saturday at Indiana Grand. I believe we will start at Gulfstream Park in race 2. Matt has plays in the second.
Just eight.
Okay. So race number 8 for Matt. And then later on the card, Barry's looking at 5, 7, and 8. So let's go from 2, and then we'll go through the rest of the card. Race number 2, 5.5 furlongs on the dirt. We have Florida bred 2-year-old maiden special weights. Maddie, talk to us about this group.
So this is kind of an interesting group that I kind of played around with a little bit, and I ultimately ended up on the number 2 Manhattan Boy, getting the blinkers off. And this is a horse that, for Antonio Sanyo with Morales aboard, the dam is pretty good with first out winners. Obviously, this is the second time out. The sire was not particularly precocious, so I actually kind of made a note with this horse that there was a kind of mixed precocity, if you will, in terms of up top, underneath. And so I actually kind of liked the second time out with this horse. Had a little bit of an issue first time out of the gate, was bumped around a little bit. Nothing that egregious, but still for a young horse that can kind of throw a horse off its game a little bit. And if horse flattened out and just kind of needed another start, I think. Again, we go back to this same thing where a lot of times I do look at horses that have actually raced before and kind of what their efforts have been. And while you look at the far outside and see 2 horses that, in Cinco Harley and Catch a Tiger, who are, pretty decent horses, and had nice starts, the 24 Beyer speed figure isn't overwhelming for the number 7. And the number 8, we don't know, they don't do speed figures on those 4.5 furlong races, but I think that's, again, a horse that sometimes breaking on that far outside, I always worry about young horses breaking out. So I think at 12-1, Manhattan Boy for only $750 makes a fair amount of sense. This horse is going from the synthetic to the dirt, but the dirt works have been really nice. The horse has been working out nicely. And more importantly, I think recording a lot of 5 furlong works, which is something I always pay attention to with those 2-year-olds, is getting that endurance up, getting that stamina up, and getting the condition better. So you look at a 101 and 4, a 101 and 1, the last 2 times out on the work tab. So I'm going to use Manhattan Boy at 12-1 there in race number 2.
Within the next few months, that's a name they might be calling Matt DeSantis. Manhattan Boy. You may see him somewhere here and there rolling the street.
That sounds like a bad
Right?
superhero.
I was gonna say, yeah. I could see you like you've got your own costume that you put together. It's all janky, right? There's
Yeah.
like stuff coming off of it, and like
Totally like a
you've got
Robin. Yeah.
you've got like a made up, but
Yeah.
Matt's costume has his hat as part of the costume, right?
Right.
You've got that's part like that's your unique
Yeah.
part of the costume. You've got
Yeah.
the well-dressed superhero there.
Yeah.
like
The
oh,
well
we've got-
and so everybody knows exactly who I am.
and so I was gonna
immediately.
say,
It's
Matt,
like the
you're
Clark
not really
Kent.
incognito. I was gonna say, like, you really pulled a Robert Downey Jr. here. You just told everybody you're Iron Man, man. It's not the best approach. As we keep rolling on Friday at Gulfstream Park. So, Matt, that was it for you. But Barry's got a couple in races 6, 10, and 11.
Oh
So
no,
6,
I
10,
have
and
one. I have one in 8 too.
Okay,
so
okay, cool.
I have 2 and 8. Yeah.
Okay,
I'm
cool. So
5,
let's-
7, and 8.
Okay, 5, 7, and 8. Okay, so let's
Yeah.
go race 5. Barry, you are going a mile
Yeah.
and 16th on the synthetic, $8,000 restricted claimers.
Yeah, the bottom of the barrel.
Beautiful,
favorite.
beautiful. So we love it.
Yeah, it's crazy that people don't like these races just because of the moniker that they're not expensive horses. But I find that a lot of the times these are the most competitive fields you'll see,
Yep.
and you'll be able to get prices on them.
Absolutely.
That's why I tend to gravitate towards these sort of races. That being said, this one doesn't have a whole lot of speed because speed isn't that effective on synthetic.
as
You know,
necessary, right?
right. It plays a lot different than the dirt, especially when it gets hot down here. It's almost impossible to win on the lead.
We
and
see
you
this
have
at Del Mar quite a bit too, or
yeah,
with the way it, especially when they had the synthetic, but it still happens there with the beach right there, like the weather, it still opens up the track and changes it quite a bit.
yeah, wind patterns, things like that. It's always a factor. But when the weather's hot and there's no rain, it's very hard to win on the lead on the Gulfstream synthetic. And I'm going with that premise here in race 5, and I'm going with number 5, Harmonia, for those reasons. In particular, this horse broke her maiden back on April 23rd on the synthetic, kind of dropping into this level. Fit pretty well, 1 by 2. Then they jumped up into an optional claimer, 35,000. Clearly, that's not that's where this horse fits. They dropped him back into this level and didn't really run all that well, but I think the post position had a lot to do with that. This horse drew the rail, and that's not always the best place to be on the synthetic either. It's not like there's this ridiculous rail bias and horses just go. It's actually the opposite. It seems like it's a little bit deeper, and it's hard to close on the rail. Usually you get the wide sweeping outside move that is best, and I think Harmonia, based on that maiden win, should do the same thing.
Harmonia, 12-1 on the morning line, only cost you $750 when you're putting together your Saturday Gulfstream Park stable dual lineups. So we go right next door, Barry, for your next play. We're going to go to race number 6. This one,
7.
or race 7, excuse
Yep,
me. So,
race 7. Yep.
We're going 6 furlongs on the dirt, maiden $25,000 claimers. Set us up for this one.
Yeah, this is another one. Young horses, lightly raced. The ones that have run in this race, I don't particularly like. So you can just kind of narrow that down to who I do like and who I am picking. There's only 2 horses that haven't run, and I'm not taking the 7. So I went with number 6, Glazed Ginger. I feel like this horse might be able to run, especially since the 8 horse is from the same barn, and may get a lot of undeserved attention. Ran pretty decent, not the greatest race, the 8 Anatomy. Um, been training well, but looks the part and almost looks too good to be true in the spot. This one from the same barn has been training equally as good and just has a nondescript rider, and the price is probably going to be infinitely better.
And it almost looks like, one or two of these works is a little sneaky, right? Like these
Yeah.
back-to-back works, and then they really slowed her down a little bit.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Just to get her more fit.
That June 10th work where they got some speed, and the June 3rd. And then, I think those are just maintenance works, the last two, the June 17th and then the July 1st, in preparation for this race. I think this horse might be able to run. We get 6-1. I'll be happy. We might get a little bit higher than that.
That is the number 6, Glazed Ginger, 6-1 on the morning line at Gulfstream Park on Saturday. Excuse me. We will roll to the 8th race for one more play on Saturday from both Matt and Barry at Gulfstream Park. So Matty, right next door, it's a first level allowance going 5 furlongs on the synthetic, optional 25. Where are you looking here?
Yeah, so I think a lot of people are going to just stop and start at the number 1 Zarak, and I get it. The horse ran a banger of a race off of a 18-month layoff, and it certainly posted a really impressive speed figure, and now is getting that second back. And maybe you think that's just the best horse in the field, and you go with it. I think the number 2, Capture the Time, is the horse that I was intrigued by in this race, because this is a horse that has only ever run on the synthetic once. And it did so in a really big spot in a $100,000 stakes race, and didn't embarrass itself that day.
No.
And did it without Lasix, and ran halfway decent and finished not that far off the winner, only 3.5 lengths beaten that day behind some decent horses on the synth. Chasing Artie and the Virginian are nice horses that we've talked about a lot down at Gulfstream Park. This horse, I think, has the ability to, to do well in this particular race. And again, if you look at what this horse does at this kind of optional claiming level, there's success here on the turf, admittedly, but I don't think there was a drop off in terms of the speed figures on the synthetic. And even last time out, I think this horse maybe was just in over its head at $60,000 handicap. So this horse is getting the class drop into this spot. I'm intrigued by this one a lot. I think this horse makes a lot of sense at 12-1, only $750. I'm going to be using this one in my stable on Saturday.
And his synthetic race also was followed by a 10-month layoff.
Exactly.
Right?
And now you're third back in the form cycle. Yep.
So, you can probably be a little forgiving for that race, maybe why it wasn't even a little better than it could have been. Capture the Time, 12-1 for Matty. Barry, you've got one in this race also, right?
Indeed, I do.
Where
And
we
it's
headed?
not the 2.
Okay.
I can tell you that. No. I took a long look at the 2, and I decided that the pace was just going to be too quick.
Yeah.
There seems to be a lot of speed, even if the 2 that really doesn't need the lead. Little Juanito, the 1 should have speed. The 3, the 4 probably wants to be forwardly placed. The 5, the 6 likes to be up close too. So I was thinking that this pace might get a little heated up front, and I ended up on Grand Bay, who is 2 for 2. I mean, the record says 1 for 2 because the horse, it's weird. They were completely disqualified, so they don't get any placing, even though the horse technically won.
Yeah, as a person. Yeah, it's like a positive, right? It's one of those issues where it comes back after the race. So those are, it's always right, like interesting because the horse has already won twice, like you're saying, actually has won.
Right, and honestly, you can't take that away from the horse. The horse did run. Transfers Barnes to Victor Barboza, who's probably a better synthetic trainer than the one that the barn the horse came from. Gets Lasix and probably has the right running style for this race, and I think this horse is going to get the trip. The only issue I see is the 10 trying to get the same trip. as the 8. And if the 8 can kind of float the 10 out wide, might be advantageous, because the 8 definitely has to improve a little bit to win this race, considering what's in this race, especially the 10. The 10 just seems to be a little bit better than these, and even the 3, speed figure wise, might be a little bit better. But running style, pace dynamics, things like that could be the great equalizer. And at 10-1, this horse is 2 for 2 on the synthetic at this same trip. I don't see why not.
Grand Bay, the number 8, 10-1 on the morning line, will only cost $1,000 to use in your stable dual lineup on Saturday at Gulfstream Park. So let's head Saturday to Indiana Grand. I believe they have 8 stakes races on the card, 2 graded stakes races, the Indiana Oaks and the Indiana Derby. Lots of opportunities. And Barry, as you and I were talking about too, like the undercard has some solid turf stakes races too that aren't graded stakes races, but they're strong. They're really strong.
This card is
I was
very,
impressed.
very strong. Yeah, I mean, from beginning to end on Saturday, it's all good. It's all good. Big fields, vulnerable favorites. You get everything you want as a horse player.
Yep. So, Matt, the contest for Indy, there are 2 on Saturday. Is that right? 2 different options?
I only see one in the app right now, but on the website there are 2.
Okay, so at least the bigger one, right?
Yeah, exactly. There's at least the bigger one, which is the $60 entry, $6,000 contest with a 4 entry limit. There may also be a $15 contest with a $3 limit. So keep an eye out on the app for that one, because they haven't updated Saturday entirely on the app. So do look for something else to be added.
We are looking at those daily racing form past performances. Like always, we encourage you, if you need some help playing the races, head to drf.com. We look at the formulator past performances over here. All throughout the summer, daily racing form will be having a big focus on races from Saratoga and from Del Mar. They'll have a ton of products, clocker reports, selections, betting strategies to help you out in those daily past performances, because they'll be racing more often now come summer, and the quality of racing gets better and better. Good quality of racing on Saturday over at Indy. And I believe, Matt, you get things started right off the bat, right? In race number 1?
Absolutely.
Beautiful.
One in the chamber early, bro.
And you know what? They start, and keep in mind, they start at noon Eastern time on Saturday, which is really early for Indy. So they get things started, but then look, they go first post at 12 Eastern, second race 12:42. So we got 42 minutes right off the bat between races 1 and 2.
No, got to get people, a lot of time to get prepped for that maiden special weight 34.
Well, it's like what they do. They started to do this now on Saturdays in college sports, in college football, and college basketball. Some of the smaller schools will start their games now at 11 a.m. Eastern time or 11:30, so they get to be the first half hour of the only game on before everyone else starts, right?
Absolutely.
And this might be smart. You're the first race that everybody wants to bet and get invested in, so I can see that.
Yep, get your early pick 5 or something like that.
Yep.
And so, it reminds me, like back in the day with college football, and it shouldn't have been back in the day, like 15, 20 years ago. The advent of the Thursday night game, the Wednesday night games, the small Conference USA schools would get on there, and it was a great way to build the brand. Maction, yeah, exactly. Got to get some Maction. But I mean, I lived in North Carolina for years, and a program like App State kind of made their name getting early on those Thursday, Wednesday, Thursday night games, and suddenly they're a nationally ranked program. So I always loved the apps. So race number 1 here on Saturday at Horseshoe Indianapolis is a state bred $38,000 maiden special weight for fillies and mares, 3-year-olds and up, going 6 furlongs on the dirt. I really like the number 6, 6J Starlet. 10-1 on the morning line is only going to cost you $1,000. This horse can take a step forward. First of all, this horse took a huge step forward from 2 to 3. This horse clearly matured from the time this horse was 2 years old to 3 years old. There was progression because this horse came out and ran by far and away the best rates of its career that last time out. Now you're getting second back off the bench. And by the way, we should say that horse had trouble first time out. Was checked up, had a slow start, had just had a lot of issues and still managed to finish a very impressive driving third and was actually placed second through DQ, but was only a half length off. Now, the interesting part is it's only a half length off of CV Scenic Legacy, who, by the way, is 7-2 in this race. So wait a second. You're telling me this horse is only half length behind the number 8 horse, and the 8 horse is 7-2, but this other horse is 10-1. That doesn't make any sense to me in my brain. So I just think the 6 makes a ton of sense here. And the interesting thing is people are going to look at Kevin Fletcher as a trainer, Randy Matthews as a trainer who's 0 for 22, but he's 9 for 22 in the money. He's clearly getting horses ready. I mean, to be
They're running.
0% winning, but 41% in the money. That tells me he's getting these horses ready. And I think second back off the layoff, I think this horse has a real opportunity to take a big step forward and be a really strong win contender. I don't know if we'll get 10-1, but I really, really like this horse in Stable Duel.
Great way to start the day with a $1,000 play. So your lineup you're putting together will have a ton more wiggle room all throughout the rest of the day after you start with a horse like this. Maddie gets things kicked off in the opener with the number 6 at 10-1 on the morning line. I will roll to race number 5. Barry's got 6, 10, and 12. Matt's got 8 and 12. So we'll go 5 and then a little later on in the card. So for me, race number 5 is a mile turf stakes race here. This one is for Indiana bred fillies, 3-year-olds. I love races like this because the horse who I'm going to key in on and gravitate towards is the number 7, Krickenberger. If you look at Krickenberger, she's been on the turf twice. Really, her last 4 races are all very good. She's been very competitive, but the 2 turf races are the ones that I'm keying in on because those have been her more recent races, the last 2. On May the 18th, she lost to Sassy Katie. And you can see that Sassy Katie is in this field, and Sassy Katie is a horse who just has more speed than her. So when they face each other in smaller fields or in races where Sassy Katie gets the jump, she's always going to win. She just has more tactical speed. That's her running style. Then we look at who Krickenberger lost to in her next race. She lost to Star Wisher. Star Wisher is another horse who won being on the lead, getting the lead. She probably won't get the same type of trip she got in her last start where she cleared, went wire to wire, and didn't have any other pressure because Star Wisher can't get the same exact trip that the other horse got when beating Krickenberger. The number 3, Sassy Katie, there's also additional speed in here, like the 6, Ease Magic, like the number 11, Single Her. We have some really, really fast fillies in here. There are 5 or 6 that all want to be right on the front end, pushing it. So now Krickenberger goes 3rd start of the form cycle, makes her 3rd turf start, but she's finally going to be in a race where she's going to get a little bit of pace. She's going to have a race shape finally that should be to her liking. I think it's a really good spot for the number 7 Krickenberger to come running at 6-1. She's right on that par. When you're building your lineup, you kind of mentally, when you're putting it together, whether you're someone who has a system, you write things out, you map it out in your head, you're thinking about, I need to go about $5,000 each race, right? So in your head, you're trying to say, I need about a 5-6-1 shot here. That means if I spend up in one race, then the next race, I got to go 10-1 shot to kind of even things out. So that's how you have to play it in your head. This horse keeps you right on that par. Krickenberger, the number 7, comes rolling late. So that is race 5, one of the stakes races on the Saturday card. I believe Barry has one in the 6th right next door. So Barry, let's take a look at the Indiana bred maiden special weights in race number 6.
Yeah, this is a very interesting big field. That's kind of what gravitated me here. These kind of races are tough because you have some horses that have quite a bit of races under their belt. You have the 2 has 7 races, the 3 has 11, the 4 has 3, the 5 has 5. And their form hasn't really changed. They all kind of run the same race every time. The only one that I saw with some sort of improvement was the 11.
Yep.
And that's who I ended up picking, Forever Friends number 11. Now, that first race back in September, just I'm sure the connections are like, what happened? Because that horse came back in June or June 17th and runs a bang up first. I
Yeah.
would consider that the first time out.
Me too.
And it's something to build on. Should get a nice trip with speed inside of that horse. There's really not much else in here, and
No,
I think this horse is pretty quick. Probably did a lot of good that first race to get a nice race under his belt. Second time ready to fire.
This is Saved by the Bell is the Friends Forever tour that they go on.
Oh my god!
And they're doing Friends Forever. They're singing it.
Yeah.
And it's so blatantly, obviously not them singing. It's so funny when they're going on it's the Zack Attack is the
Zack
name of the
Attack.
band. And they go.
Yes.
And that just sort of feels like our show today, right? As we say goodbye, we're friends forever. We're waving
See?
our hands. And
It all
as we
comes
go.
full circle, bro.
Oh yeah,
full circle.
full circle. The number 11, the Zack Attack, Forever Friends. That one is 8-1 on the morning line. Will cost Barry 3,000 in the Stable Duel lineup. Maddie, I believe you and I are going to move to race number 8, and now we have like a string of stakes races for the rest of the card at Indy. I think starting in race 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, all stakes races. This 8th race, it's $100,000 stakes race going a mile 70 on the dirt.
Yeah.
Where do you land?
So before we get to that, I just wanted to say I just saw on Twitter that Wonder Wheel has been retired.
Wow.
So
yeah, we saw her.
You saw her.
She just
turn
didn't
in-
really fire and
No.
not synthetic. And that was,
No.
and you know what?
She
You
just didn't
understand?
come back after.
Yeah.
after-
Yeah, she never came
And
back.
they take
Yeah.
a shot on the, and you give it right. Like you understand why they did that. They went up to Woodbine. That's where Cassie does really well. He's got his
Yeah.
a lot of operation up there. You take
Yeah.
a shot on the synthetic, probably against softer company. Can she perk back up and then head to
Yeah.
maybe the King's Play and the Woodbine Oaks? But she just didn't fire, right? And now she had a great year as a 2-year-old. We've seen it enough from her this year.
Yeah.
I like that. I think that's a smart decision, and that's good.
I think so too. So I just wanted to share that. So yeah, this is a really nice race. I really like this field quite a bit. So this is one where, listen, I just don't really trust Creative Minister of the 6 at all. Promise Keeper is a horse that kind of went on a heck of a run back in 2021, but really hasn't done much in winning since then. So those are kind of your two favorites. I do think Trademark's a legitimate horse, the number 5. Ultimately, though, I ended up on the number 1, Keystone Field.
Oh, here we go.
All right, there we go.
Here we go.
So this horse just makes a lot of sense, I think,
yeah.
and it's
Toss
coming
the
out of a
turf.
really you toss the turf effort, and I think this kind of listed stakes level race is kind of where this horse is.
Yep.
Ceiling is kind of, this is where he's going to do his best work. I mean, he can go up to a grade 3 like we saw in the Pimlico Special and run halfway decent. And that was a really good field, obviously featuring Rattle and Roll, who we saw come back, win another grade 3 after that, and then just put in a huge effort in the grade 1 Stephen Foster last time out. So, you have Clapton, who's running in the Suburban this weekend against Charge It, as well, who won the grade 3 Ghost Sapper. So that was a really nice field. And you go back and look at what this horse has done in the past. It really fits in this race from a speed figure standpoint, also from a running style standpoint.
Yeah, he's got a little versatility to him.
Exactly.
Too,
I think he's going to sit the pocket trip in all likelihood, because you got the real speed, the number 2 right outside, who I think is going to just go to the front. And I'd imagine Keystone Field is fast enough to be able to kind of get out there so he doesn't get shuffled back, but isn't going to try to get into any sort of a speed duel because he doesn't need the lead. So he'll kind of easily take back and let the 2 take the lead. And maybe one of the other horses like Trademark or something like that comes up to sit second. He sits third on the inside rail. And I think has kind of that pocket trip. So that's where I went in this one, 6-1 on the morning line, only going to cost you that average par of $5,000 in Stable Duel.
Yeah. You just look at him from when he started this string of races in September of last year, September the 10th. He was in a grade 2 going long on the turf. He didn't fire. Eliminate his 2 turf races. and eliminate the Razorback, which was a monster field, right? It's a grade 3 race, but look at how strong the race came back. The winner, Last Samurai, came out of that race and won their next start with a 101 Beyer speed figure, winning the Essex. The runner-up, West Will Power, he's one of the better older horses in training right now. Barry and I were talking about him last week when we previewed the Ellis Park races. Like, he's just been remarkably consistent. It's like, and speed figures, he shows up with a big effort each and every time. Like, that's a really nice horse. The third place finisher there was our buddy, Law Professor, who came right back to win his next start in the Excelsior. So, I mean, no shame in getting beat by that group. Look at the rest of that field. Our Rated R Superstar, who's now retired. Long Range Toddy. The last place finisher was Ginobili. That's a strong group.
Yeah.
Like you hit it perfectly too, Matt. I think he gets the trip from the inside. Just feels like this is the spot for him. He fits at this level with the running style, the price. If he is in that 5-1 range, it sort of all comes together, making him the horse you feel like is the value in here at 6-1. And Maddie and I will both have him in our stable dual lineups right there. 5,000 in your stable dual lineup, right on that par that you're trying to keep. And that is race number 8 on Saturday. Barry, you have races 10 and 12. Matt, you've got the 12th. So let's hit race number 10 as we keep rolling along. This one is going 1 mile and a 16th on the turf. Barry, why don't you set us up for this one? We've got fillies and mares, 4-year-olds and up.
Yes, indeed. And this is a really nice $100,000 stake. I mean, if you look at this field, there's some really good horses here.
There are.
You got Sweet Danny Girl, who's been running very, very well, and who should dictate the pace here. Now, whether this horse can go all the way or not is another story, and I'm counting on not, because there is some other speed here that might bother that horse a little bit. In Hail 2, long shots basically, that should probably kind of menace that horse, Sweet Danny Girl, from the outside. And I kind of landed on 2 horses here. But my pick is going to be the higher of the 2, but I'm going to mention the other one. So my pick is number 1, Princess Theorem.
Oh, here we go.
I just think this horse's progression since the beginning of this year puts this horse in a great position to win this race. So we're just look at this horse's races from December. It was December 31st. So I kind of consider that, first of the year.
The start of the year.
Right. And the horse, you can see that day broke really badly, slow, early, and kind of finished late, just like a horse you would expect to do off the layoff. The next race.
And she loses to Market Segmentation.
Yeah, who's not a slouch.
Twice now in this stretch of races, who is a grade 1 winner and who's won 3 in a row.
Right. That horse is on the up and up. And this horse hasn't, just lost to that horse by a neck April 1st.
Yep.
So you see that horse's razor sharp would probably be one of the favorites in this race.
Oh, absolutely. Hands down.
Right. So, if you kind of play that game, this horse fits very, very well here. The Gallarette was way outside, was 4 wide a lot of the way, and just kind of flattened out.
Well, and let's watch the race a little too, because this was the one race I wanted to watch, because I thought this was the deceiving one, because she's actually second until like the last jump of the race, right?
Flies.
And then the last 2 just get up late. So she's sitting, Princess Theorem in this race is the number 7. So you see her trip. She's a little wide early. She has a good start. And that's sort of what I like about her too. She's a little more tactical than it might look, right? I think it looks like she's a little deeper of a closer than she really is. And with the rail draw, she should probably be able to sit and save ground. So she tracks in a pretty good spot. She's in 5th. She's about, 3 to 4 lengths off or so, and not in a bad spot. So she's the 7. Now watch as we go a little farther into the race. So she looms right up here at the top of the lane, top of the stretch here, challenging with a 3 wide bid. like a really nice effort. This is the type of bid you want to see from a horse. She moves all the way up into second, but she just gets beat by White Beam, who pushes through here and ends
Better
up winning.
horse.
So
Just a better horse. Yeah.
like right here, Princess Theorem is in second with about less than 100 yards to go. And then I think
And then
late
gets passed by two
just
horses.
look
late.
at the
Yeah.
last two horses right
Or last
there
no,
that get her
really.
right on the wire. And it's one of those things where how much better does the race look on paper if she finishes second and fourth? You know,
Right.
you just
Yeah,
get so much better feel. Like
It would
oh,
look
it's
much better, and the horse would probably be a shorter price.
way shorter price. You're exactly.
So we're
And
thrilled that those two got up there.
Yes, yes.
And that's
Yeah.
the type of stuff as gamblers we're
setup.
looking for, right? Is there any reason why she should be a little less valued to the greater public? And that race has come back really strong. We mentioned White Beam, the runner-up in that race, Sopron Basilia, came right back to win a Grade 3 at Delaware Park last weekend. And the third place finisher by partisanship came back to win a stakes race at Parks, earned a 90 buyer speed figure in doing so. Now we can go through every race since December, like Barry was doing. All of them make sense. Twice she lost to Market Segmentation, who's just a little bit better than her. One of the times she's behind Faith in Humanity, who goes wire to wire in that race. There was no passing, and she was 44-1, and she was one of the only horses passing that day, coming from way out of it in a race that had no like pace shape at all. She comes right back and loses by a neck again to a wire-to-wire winner, a horse who gets the jump on her. She just hasn't gotten the race shape in any of these races, and she's lost to really good horses. Another one who gets just a tad bit of class relief, but when you look at Market Segmentation, who's a Grade 1 winner, this is legitimate class relief here. I like her quite a bit. The number one, Princess Theorem. When I do my radio show each week, I give out like 2 or 3 best bets. She's definitely going to be one of my plays for the weekend, the number one.
Yeah, the other one I wanted to mention was number 3, Juncture.
Sure.
I think this horse has some races to go back to in Europe that were pretty good. And this horse seems like this is the natural progression of where this horse would land and win. Brad Cox does a really good job, with these type of horses that are very, very lightly raced. He doesn't really race his horses a whole lot anyway. And this may be the type that needs some time between races. And I think this one's a lot better than what she showed the first 2 starts in America.
Juncture, 6-1 on the morning line, and definitely a horse to use if you're playing pick 4s, pick 5s, late exotics there at Indy on Saturday. So while we have 2 races left, I guess we could just briefly hit on the both of them because they're the 2 big races. They're the Indiana Oaks and the Indiana Derby, but none of us had a play in the Indiana Oaks, and I guess that's probably because we may feel it's a little formful. Was that the case for both of you guys? I had a tough time getting past the top 3. I could maybe make a case for Merlaza, who we talked about when we did the draft, the Black Eyed Susan draft. But Merlaza didn't really have legitimate excuses. I could just maybe give her the mulligan there and then give her one shot back. Maybe it was a little too far. She was in a good spot. She's the one that I could make a case for from a value standpoint. But Matt, I think Taxed is in really nice form right now. In Defining Purpose, if you can eliminate her Oaks, she was only 10-1.
I don't know. I just couldn't get into Defining
Purpose as much.
Yeah.
Were you more on
not at
Taxed,
all.
or how did you see
Yeah,
the race?
Tax looks a lot better, but
Yeah.
this race was really kind of up for grabs. I mean, I'm not really enthused with either of the favorites, but there really isn't much.
The
beyond
other ones
those
that
two.
right. excited you, right? That was sort
Exactly.
of the problem I had with this race too. Like, I wanted to find a horse.
Yeah.
That's why kind of by default, Matt, if I'm putting a stable dual lineup together, I probably use Merlaza in this race just by a value standpoint. But I don't know, like I didn't see enough in there to make me think that she had a legitimate excuse to why she can improve and flip it that much on Taxed.
Yeah, and she was, there was one thing that we talked about a little bit with her is the speed figures were always a little light. And she was getting these wins, and it was like, okay, but you're running an 81 or an 82. And it was like, how's this going to translate when you really step up? And we saw it didn't translate that well.
Yep.
And we've seen Hoosier Philly come back to win the Monomoy Girl out of that race. So, that Black Eyed Susan has come back, solid in that regard. And yeah, Taxed, I think I like this horse a lot. I made the joke a lot of times. If you just get these horses out of the slop at Oaklawn, it's amazing how well they can run.
Yeah.
And, I just felt like Taxed was one of those horses that was just like, Jesus, just get this horse to drive fast track and don't. And the other thing is, I think this is also where you saw now a little bit of the vulnerability of a horse like Wet Paint, who was the overwhelming favorite in the Kentucky Oaks, is that horse needs the setup. That horse needs the pace to run into. And if you don't have a blistering pace, then suddenly a horse like Taxed can sit the sort of trip that she wants. And even though she was second best to Wet Paint got the setup every single time in those Oaklawn races. And she looks very tough here. I agree with you that if you're going to make an argument for another horse, maybe Merlaza, Defining Purpose coming off of, Lily Pooh's one I looked at as well. That one makes a little bit of sense. Finishing third last time out, I wasn't thrilled
I know
with,
this is just one, and I know you can't always do this, but what we were talking about, I had a hard time with Lily Pooh just being a SoCal guy, because we saw Fiza, for example, easily handle Lily Pooh, and then Fiza went over and was handled in the Black Eyed Susan. I know it always doesn't work that way, but just sort of in my head when I'm playing that game, I was kind of like Barry, I couldn't find the value horse I wanted in here, because as much as I wanted to try to beat the top two, there wasn't that other 8-10 to 1 shot that looks juicy for me that felt like the right horse in the right race. So we all
good way to describe it.
Kind of skip skip this race because we didn't really land on that horse. But we'll finish up with the Grade 3 Indiana Derby. In this race, the headliner is Verifying. Verifying hasn't won a big race, but I think looking at his form, I'm a little more forgiving to him. I think his races have come back stronger. The races that he loses, at least on speed figures, what you're going to get from him. He tries, he goes out there, he sits a good trip. But again, Barry, you're attacking this race, and we can talk about this race. Will he show up and run a good race in here? I think so. But do you want to take him at a very, very short price? That I don't think he's that type of horse, right? Do you want to count on him at 4 to 5? No. Am I pretty confident he's going to show up and probably hit the board here? Yeah, but we've seen him late be fine settling for second, right? Well, even in the Bluegrass,
we don't want that.
It's not that he lost to a bad horse like Tapit Trice, but that was the race to me where I went, you know what? He was supposed to win that race.
He had the perfect setup in the Bluegrass and the Matt Winn, and he didn't get it done. I mean, he reminds me a lot of Midnight Bourbon in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Just a horse that, at the top of the stretch, you're like, this is the time. He's going to get it. And then it's like, nope, it's not the time.
And it's a good spot for him here.
Checks.
There's a reason why he's 8 to 5 in here. It's a good spot for him. He is the most proven, accomplished horse in here, and he's the deserving favorite. All of that being said, we're going to take shots against him, and in stable duel, you got to find another way to use.
What kind of a trip is this horse going to get, though? I mean, it's not going to be an easy trip at all.
No,
because there's enough speed in here.
Yep,
and it's going to be, that horse is going to be pressured the whole time. I just didn't like him at all in this race, especially he's got second-itis and
So Barry, who are you looking at in here?
I went to the 8.
Yeah.
I don't even know
Barry!
I have no idea how to say that name.
Cagliostro.
There you go, Cagliostro.
Yeah.
Okay. See? Mental
there we go.
Taken. Yeah. I just think this one is ready. It was kind of improving before the Louisiana Derby, and kind of broke through the gate, freaked out, and didn't have a chance. Came back running off the little short break. And I think this one's going to be closer to the pace and run a lot better.
When we were just talking about the Indiana Oaks, the horse I was describing is Cagliostro, right?
Yep.
Like the 8 to 1 type of horse that you're looking for in a race that is not one of the favorites, that is sort of improving, that's peaking at the right time. You've got a second off the bench. You feel like they're going to get the trip. This is the type of horse that wasn't in the Indiana Oaks that I think is a major player in here. Matt, you seem like you were in agreement. I think if anyone's playing any type of pick 4 or pick 5, definitely use this horse in there. And in stable duel, you definitely want to use him if you have, if you can. And this spot, like, I don't
Yeah.
have very many knocks on him. He just feels like it's a really good spot for him to run well.
It does. The only knock you could make is, does this horse need Lasix? But I think what Barry pointed out is that Louisiana Derby, the horse freaked out. I mean, it broke through the starting gate and actually got away. And actually, I think it's going to have the trip that the horse is going to have on Saturday, because he sat close that day. And I mean, it helped the pace was glacial, but he sat relatively close. And I actually really love the fact that there is going to be pace in this race, because Cagliostro is going to be able to run into that without any issue. And I really like Cherie DeVaux second back from a little bit of a freshening. And I also think this horse might just be more of a 1 1/16 type of a horse. Like, I don't know if this horse has really wanted that 1 3/16 at the Louisiana Derby. So I think when you're looking at this horse, 1 1/16 just makes a lot of sense. Just got beat out by Scotland last time out, who's I think a really good horse for Bill Mott. And I just think this one makes a ton of sense at 8-1. It was also a little bit of like a process of elimination in this race where I was just like, well, I can't really get behind that horse. That horse has issues. Like, I don't know about Barry, but like, are you, but like, I just kept going through and I'm like, like seconditis was verifying. And like, I just kind of kept tossing other horses.
Me too.
I mean, the only other horse that I could kind of make an argument for maybe is Raised Cane, but I don't really even trust that horse that much doing two
I
turns.
think Raised Cane should
necessarily.
be like 70-1 in this spot.
Yeah.
Like,
I don't like that horse in this spot. Yeah.
No,
what you did is exactly what I did. And so when I was kind of mapping out doing my handicapping process, I had 8-5-1. How I put this race together, like in order as my selections, from like the 8 as the horse to play, the value, the 5 verifying is the horse to beat.
Yep.
I've followed the 1 for a little while.
Yep.
So I think the horse might be a little bit better than what his speed figures might suggest, because I like horses like this who've run well at Turfway. The Turfway speed figures sometimes don't come up as strong just because they're synthetic versus the dirt. So you look at his form overall, his first 2 races at Turfway, they were really impressive. He wasn't even really tested. He won like nicely. And then they thought enough of those races to go over in the Gotham. He was only 8-1 in that race in a 14 horse field in the Gotham in his 3rd start. And he hooked a muddy track. And then they sent him to the bench for a couple months. He showed
a really
back
weird
up,
race, by the way.
right?
Yeah,
And it was a weird race.
Really strange race.
Yeah, the least
Right?
formful race ever. Yeah. So.
Super weird. And then he comes back off the bench and he wins. He goes to the lead. I don't think he needs the lead. And I think that there might be 1 or 2 others that are faster in here than him, which could work as a blessing. He could probably sit 3rd from the inside.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's good enough, but could he just top of the lane, be in a perfect spot and maybe fall into a nice trip to get you some points for Stable Duel? Or, maybe if you're looking for a price horse, if you're taking the shot against verifying and you're trying to find a few prices, I like him and his upside more than some of the other horses that we mentioned that you've sort of seen over and over. This horse might be able to take 1 step forward. And if his speed figures pop up to like 90, low 90s, like that's right there and probably competitive with this group. Transect as a wild card horse to play. Daniel asked what jockey was riding the 8 horse. That's Morales. Morales.
Edgar Morales.
Mhm.
Why doesn't the 6 do what his name is?
Stay in your lane, right? You're right.
I think I'm faster. I think I can run faster than that horse.
I was gonna say the old shut up and dribble, right?
That is a horse. I mean, like that's one of those where Gino, you get a little bit more
How
experience
they
with
take
this
that
out.
entry?
Well, that's what I was saying. It's not like this was a short field out in California where it's like we
You're
need
right.
another horse or something like
know.
that, or even like we see that in some stakes races, even up in New York. To be honest, like where it's a 5-horse turf race and 3 of them are Chad Browns, and it's like so it was a relatively full field, so I'm surprised they took the 6 in this spot.
And it's also weird too.
Might be a
like,
scratch too.
Yeah, like normally when you see a horse like this, like you were kind of pointing out, it's like a local horse, right? Who's been there at the track, who's just there.
This one is not,
and they're like,
really.
oh, the big race at the track is here, so we're going to enter them and take a shot. And so then maybe like the connection or the track executives and the racing secretary will say, yeah, we know this barn, and like they're gonna take a big shot to see if they can get a graded state, something like that. But this one just doesn't make any sense at all.
No, because we actually saw what you described in a couple of horses at the Ohio Derby a couple of weeks ago, where there were like 3 local horses at Thistledown who had no business being in that race, but like, okay, like I get it. Like,
they only have 1 or 2 big days a year, and
totally get it.
You know those
That's
barns,
cool.
and you know the owners and trainers, and you're not worried about the horses like physical well-being. Then let them take a swing. But yeah, this one is this one would be tough to get to. Would be very tough to get to.
I don't even know if I like that horse in a maiden claimer earlier in the card.
Well, I was gonna say, like at Gulfstream and a maiden claimer or on the synthetic, I don't know. I think we'd have to be working on this one.
Still 10-1, I think. Still.
Daniel J, thank you so much for checking in with us as we get ready to finish up now. And as I mentioned, next week we won't have a morning show on Friday, but just stay tuned because we'll have information for you to let you know what's going to happen moving forward, because we have to at least take a week off and change things up for Matt. I mean, Matt was such a big part of this show. We can't just roll right on in, and like it can't be like a different season of some of these shows where it's like the Fresh Prince, was that the same mom? I don't know. That seems like a different mom in the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Oh yeah, they did change the mom in like the second season. So we're not going to do that quite yet. Barry and I will figure out exactly what we want to do, but we will have a lot of Stable Duel help for you throughout the summer at Del Mar, because that's a big track that has a lot of Stable Duel games. And we want to thank everybody who's hung out with us in the mornings the last couple of years. It's been such a blast. The one thing I've learned as someone who's been in movies and TV, in commercials, on shows where there have been like in homes, in millions of homes, and done stuff for like one person. I just appreciate anyone watching, knowing that you're being able to help like anyone. The feedback when it's positive, just hearing people say, oh, I learned that watching you guys, or you helped me there, or I put that horse on my ticket. That's why we do this. That honestly, if it didn't make me feel good, if Barry didn't enjoy it, if Matt didn't like the feeling, we wouldn't do it. We would play the races ourselves and just not come on here and talk about it. I get as much of a high off of that, honestly, as I do from winning. I really do. From knowing that I was able to help someone, or we were able to help steer someone in the right way, because you know why? The reason why I'm here is because I got helped. And that's what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be that process of teaching, learning, sharing information back and forth. When we started, Matt, I didn't know you really at all, right? Like we said, I knew Barry a little bit more. Like we said, Barry and I had worked together for a few years, but Barry and I've never met Barry, right? It's not like we were high school buddies, you know what I mean?
Feels like it, but yeah, we're not.
But man, this was such a blast. Like, honestly, it's sad and stuff, but it's not. It's happy because this is why we do stuff like this.
We do it
for us to get for bigger and better opportunities, and that's what you've got now. And whether you're there for 25 years or however long, there's always a seat for you where we are, where I am. Anything that I'm doing, you are always have a standing invitation to come and be a part of it for a minute, for an hour, however long you want. And as good of a handicapper as you are, and I got to say, I'm not saying this to act like, look at me, I'm above you, but I'm saying this as watching you improve in the last couple years as a handicapper has been unbelievable to me, because I say this as I have to get better. Barry's got to get better. We all have to. But when you're able to watch someone and see like each week when we talked and like the insight growing more and more as you watch these horses more and you got familiar with all of them and we started to just talk it out. Like I said, I really do sit down with you guys, trust when you're listening. Like I listen to you and like I open my ears and I'm like fully engaged when you guys talk. And I'm not like that with a lot of people when they're talking, you know what I mean? Because I do think I'm better than a lot of people. I do think I know more than a lot of people. A lot of time it goes in one ear and out the other, but it's never that way with you guys. And Maddie, again, cannot thank you enough for all the time on this show, on my personal shows. Anytime I've asked, you have never said no. I think the only I was thinking about it. The only negative thing I could say about Matt, negative thing I could say about Matt is he's too nice. That's it.
It might
Literally.
be.
It's the only thing. He's so nice to everybody. Sometimes he's even nice to people that I don't want him to be nice to. I'm like, don't be nice to that person. They're bad. I don't like them, Matt. I don't like them. You shouldn't like them either. Don't like them. But that's my only. I couldn't even find something to say negative. It was just that you're too nice.
Well, I appreciate all the kind words. I do. And the last couple of years has been so much fun. Handicapping from you guys, learning from you both. And I can't emphasize that enough. And that's something which, if you want to get better in the sport, you have to learn, and you have to listen, and you have to constantly challenge yourself and grow, and reevaluate what you're doing. And having two people I trust so much, like the two of you, to be able to do that every single week is what made me a better handicapper. And so I can't not thank both of you enough for your time. You always said yes to me whenever I asked you to do anything for me, Trust the Profits, any of those things. Cannot thank you guys enough. And I just hope that one of these years, the three of us can all finally get together in person at a track, maybe in NYRA, maybe at Gulfstream, maybe at the Breeders' Cup, maybe at the Kentucky Derby. Who knows? But we got
anywhere. Don't matter.
All get together.
As long as I can wear shorts.
Yep.
All right, Barry. Well, easy on the shorts, but this is why you're limited to like an 8-week window in New York every year. Where you can come up, but I just thank you so much, and like I said, hopefully we can get Stable Duel up in New York here sometime soon, and I think that would be a blast. Obviously, a huge boon for Stable Duel, but then that would be, I think, a really great opportunity to have that NYRA Stable Duel marriage as well, because what we've seen from all of these tracks, big and small, is they benefit from Stable Duel, and they draw new players, and they draw more money into the pools because people are playing pick 5s and pick 4s and pick 6s and carryovers and all sorts of stuff. And, they're playing vertically in the first couple of races that other people otherwise you might skip. So, like I said, hopefully we see that, but just thank you again, guys. I really appreciate it. It means a lot. You both have become two of my very best friends. And I just appreciate all of your time, all of your wisdom, and your friendship. I value so much. So thank you very, very much.
That's really great. I'm not a guy for too many words, but this will tell you everything you need to know. Matt, wherever you want to meet, you let me know. I will wear pants, jacket, shirt,
look at that
hat.
I love it.
Whatever. You're such a good guy. You're a great guy, great handicapper.
Thank you.
Glad we crossed paths.
Yeah.
This isn't the end, obviously, but
it's
for this 2.0 version of this in Stable Duel, yes, but 3.0 is coming.
Exactly.
So glad you got the opportunity to work for NYRA. I know a lot of people there. Everybody's great.
Yeah.
You're gonna fit right in and do your thing, man. We got your back.
I appreciate it. And we, by the way, I lived in Florida long enough. We're not wearing pants. Come on, we don't need to wear. Let's take it easy.
Or shoes.
That's all right. That's enough of a concession right there. But certainly no jackets. And then no, it's always funny. I always joke when I lived in Florida. It was the only state, and Gino, California might be the same way, where you could walk into a 5-star restaurant in like shorts and flip flops, and not be out of place at all. And everybody's like, "Oh, right this way, sir."
Cool.
And just like, "Okay, thanks."
Barry and my dad would be two peas in a pod. I've seen my dad like 5 times in his life in pants, and those are all funerals and weddings.
Yeah,
like that's it. And because we're not that cold out here too, but when we were young and we would go to like the snow, my dad would have the shorts and the jacket on.
Oh yeah,
like that's just always rocking the shorts. He hates the pants. It's so funny. And when people talk about social media, and like we're seeing right now, and sometimes it can be super negative, right? The last couple of years in this world, it's been a little scary with how bad things have gotten sometimes, when people yelling and screaming at each other and disagreeing and bad information here and there. But then take the flip side, and like I know and have great relationships with the both of you guys because of social media out there as an option, getting to know you guys through Twitter, thinking about it right now, when I linked back up with my girlfriend, the mother of my child, it was through social media. And so for as much bad as there is and as much negative as there is, there's so much positive out there if you can use it right and you can find a way to link up with like-minded people. And whatever your interests are, horse racing, baseball, basketball, Star Wars, Marvel, anything, that's what's cool about this kind of era that we're in. There's a bunch of other people that are like-minded, that are interested in the same thing, that are probably dorky like you are and want to talk all about it, right? So find your friends and you'll have a blast. And that's what we were able to do. We had a great couple years here where we were able to come together. And now we look forward to seeing how Maddie does. Moving on to the NYRA, Barry and I will still be around. We'll still all be on social media. And like always, we're always going to be trying to beat the chalk. Always. It's the no chalk zone. Daniel had a couple shout outs. He said, congrats, nice. Matt. We all echo those sentiments. You guys are my value plays. Thank you, Daniel. I appreciate that. Since you guys are always trying to beat the chalk, learn a lot from you. So Daniel, Jay, thank you so much for hanging out with us. Barry, you have a great weekend. Maddie, my friend, good luck to you. And please make sure to let everybody know what's going on. We want to follow along with some of your progress. Anything that we can do to help and support you along the way, please let us know. And for the final time, this time, Joey Cleveland, we say hello and we say goodbye.
Better, you want to spread your pony knowledge wide. Oh, better, I got a place where winning ain't tough to do. You wanna be cool.
You want to be cool.
Stable. Your horse racing fantasy comes true.